Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. If you love these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update this channel daily. If you love this watch, see it and purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. Today, we're discussing a 2009 Basel World debut and a bit of a dreadnought for the wrist. This is the TAG Heuer Aquaracer 500-meter chronograph, 44 millimeters in stainless steel. It has an imposing wrist presence, and at least in terms of size and scale, it's an easy aesthetic rival to the likes of the Hublot Big Bang, the Rolex Deep Sea, and even Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshores. Before you spend premium money, consider that this is a high-grade Swiss diving chronograph that's going to deliver everything you expect in terms of toughness, utility, functionality, and even comfort. Again, think twice before you spend 2, 3, or even 4 times the money. Now, this is a big watch, but I am wearing it on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. I have to say it's a big 44. It's not terribly thick. It's 16 millimeters. It's still about 2 millimeters thinner than a Deep Sea, but it's not a thin watch. Where it really stretches its legs is across the wrist. Now, 52.6 millimeters lug to lug may not sound extreme, but if you do measure the rigid outcropping of the bracelet, and that's about as far down as you can pull the bracelet, you can't pull it straight down, that's a 60.2 millimeter span across the wrist, which is to say this thing has a broad footing. I would even say that my wrist at 16 centimeter circumference is probably the smallest wrist size that could wear this watch with both security and even a passable semblance of proportion. The bracelet is a wonderful piece. It's a selling point of the watch. First, because it's so broadly spaced. There's a proper match between bracelet width and case width here. 22 millimeters is the spacing. You'll have a bevy of aftermarket options, but you probably want to keep this bracelet. A lot of interesting things happening here. First, you have a slash cut design that converges on the center. Second, you have differential finish in satin and polish. A third, you have differential link size. 4, you have differential alignment. And you can actually see that it's alignment both vertically and horizontally. So when I look at it from overhead, the center links aren't aligned with the outers, but then when I look at it in profile, I can actually see that it has 2 different levels of link alignment, and this is something that you will rarely see on bracelets at any price. It's imaginative, it's premium, and it recommends the watch as a product of thoughtful and unconventional design imagination. Also appreciate the fact that the clasp itself is pretty solid. It has milled out swing arm, and although it is a stamped clasp, it's thicker and more robust than a Rolex Oyster from back in the day. This is a modern stamped clasp of considerable gauge, and the swing arms themselves are machined. You also appreciate the fact that it's a trigger release. So given the price point of the watch, this could easily have been a clamshell, but TAG Heuer went all the way with the trigger system, upscale and much appreciated. There's a pull-out dive extension, and you'll note 3 different anchoring points inside the clasp, so you can fine-tune to your heart's content. You use pin sleeves to size this bracelet, again, a concession to the price point, but you'll note that there are plenty of removable links and even a half link on each side of the bracelet for precise sizing. The underside, big gaps to avoid pinching skin or pulling hair. From the people who gave us the TAG Heuer link, I expect excellent ergonomics, and indeed I got that impression on the wrist. The case is simple but strong. A combination of angles and a little bit of a curvature from side to side. You also appreciate how a swelling, a sort of angularity on the 9 o'clock side nicely balances the crown guards on the 3 o'clock side. There is a helium escape valve, so saturation divers, note, present and correct, and there's even a little bit of a scalloped knurling on the outer circumference that is a much appreciated visual flourish on a watch that's simply rife with them. Now, turning over to the crown side, you'll appreciate the fact that there is a rubber inlay and a TAG Heuer shield logo on the crown. The crown is both oversized and sharply knurled, so you can really dig your fingers into it while wet, sweaty, or gloved. There's also knurling on the outside of the pushers, and they're large and broad for easy operation. The bezel, like the rest of the watch, is overbuilt and imposing. A combination of sharp knurling outboard and a rubber inlay inboard. The rubber inlay would be my preference for a dive watch that can't have a ceramic or a sapphire capped bezel. Skip the anodized aluminum. It's just going to get scratched up. Give me a combination of relieved and raised metal numerals and a rubber inlay. I've found out that these rubber inlays in my time in the industry do stand the test of ages. They age well and they resist scratches and scuffs. Now the action, let's talk about it and hear it. Quite sharp, gratifying, satisfying. There's no play in the bezel. It doesn't have any back and forth ropiness to it. The detent is fairly sharp, but there's not so much resistance that you feel you'd have trouble operating with wetty or gloved hands. It also sounds great. Now you can time two things, one with the chronograph and one with the bezel simultaneously. And this is useful because chronograph minutes only go up to 30, whereas bezel minutes elapse over 60 minutes. So it's a useful secondary timing organ. Inboard, there's a pinstriped, vertically striated bezel that nicely matches the circumferential concentric rings of the bezel itself, all applique indices, an upscale flourish, raised counters for the minutes and hours of the chronograph, and a minimalist crosshair style constant seconds. There is a Cyclops magnifier, and as you can see, it is a very shallow magnifier atop the crystal. A little orange flourish, turn it all over, what's on the inside? Well, TAG Heuer calls this Calibre 16. I call it a Vajoux 7750. 42-hour power reserve, automatic winding, stop seconds, with a quickset date, and of course 500 meters water resistant. This is a watch that features everything you need and nothing you don't for diving. See it and take the plunge on the watch box. TAG Heuer Aquaracer Chronograph. The real deal. That's what I call dive watch loom.